News Central now at this hour begins in Nigeria's capital, where leaders of the ruling All Progressives Congress converged on Abuja on Wednesday for its National Executive meeting. That's the National Executive Committee meeting, holding at the party's National Secretariat. The NEC meeting, the first since Tinubu's assumption of office in May 2023, comes a day after the National Caucus meeting of the party. All roads leading to the venue of the meeting on Blantyre Street were cordoned off by a combined team of armed security men, including soldiers from the Guards Brigade. Despite the release of an accredited list of reporters on Wednesday morning by the party spokesman Felix Moka, vehicular and human movement on Blantyre Street were equally restricted, leaving journalists outside. President Bola Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima both in attendance, along with some early arrival, comprising National Working Committee members, a forum of state chairman, former governor of Zamfara State Abdulaziz Yari, Minister of Budget and National Planning Atiku Baguru, and Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu. Conspicuously absent from the NEC meeting were former President Muhammadu Buhari, former Governor of Kaduna State Nasir El-Rufai, and former Governor of Rivers State and ex-Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi. Now for more on this, we are joined by our correspondent Amadine Oyi, who's going to be giving us a special report. Amadine, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Can you please tell us what's transpiring at the meeting currently?
Okay, Madino, what exactly happened was that, first of all, the meeting was concluded just a few minutes ago. Just like you said, President Bola Tinubu was in attendance with the Vice President, the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and also several governors cited Ogun State, the governor of Benue State, after here. So it was time for members of the National Executive Committee of the All Progressives Congress to review the situation in the party, review what had been happening, and then try to resolve whatever issues threatens to disaggregate the party. So what happened was that the President of the Senate, the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Imo State governor, who happens to be the chairman of the APC Governors Forum, and several others, gave short speeches. Now, what was unanimous in all what they said was that they reviewed the policy of the President and said that he had been bold to push forward those policies, though unpopular at the time they were bringing forward. But now the nation is beginning to see some kind of respite. Now the nation is beginning to see a reduction in inflation. Nigeria is beginning to see a rebounding of the economy. So every member here present unanimously moved the motion and adopted it in support of President Bola Tinubu.
Now, Amadine, the caucus meeting held just last night. Are there any matters that might have emanated from the caucus meeting inside of the NEC meeting from today?
Now, remember that the caucus, just like you said, the caucus meeting met yesterday, and it still also reviewed the situation in the party. That caucus meeting preceded the NEC meeting. The NEC meeting, just like I have told you, I said, several key members of the All Progressives Congress, and they looked at the party. Remember that before that there were fears that the APC was beginning to have internal crisis. You listed some members, high-profile members of the party who have been aggrieved but did not attend this NEC meeting, and some of them did not attend the caucus meeting. So it was time for the APC to do a sort of introspection, look within, and then one thing that was very clear was that the President of the Senate all members of the party that in as much as they were trying their weight behind the president, it was also good to review the 2023 elections and also review states that the APC traditionally used to do very well. States like Katsina and states like Lagos, which they did not do well in the last general elections. And he urged all members that yes, the euphoria right now is high. They are going to see results, but it is also time to reflect because it is just 2 years from the next general election.
Amadine, at the NEC meeting, were there any address regarding rumors of discord or crisis inside of the APC? Did any of that sort of information, was that addressed at all by the APC?
Now, first of all, let me explain what happened when we came in. The national chairman gave his speech. After the national chairman's speech, all the press were politely asked to leave so that they would discuss as a family. We are not yet privy to what was discussed in our absence. If they talked about this crisis, if they talked about the position of the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, who was the founding member of the party. But when we came back, when they had discussed as a family after their own executive session, and they ushered the press back into the venue, nobody made mention of any crisis, nobody made mention of any situation that had to do with some agreed members of the party. But one thing that we were sure was that all members of the NEC spoke in support of the president, commended the president for his own announcements and daily reforms, and commended the president that Nigeria is beginning to see light at the end of the tunnel. Remember that when the president made those policies, removed fuel subsidy, talked about the stabilization of the forex market, Nigeria went into a crisis, went into an inflation. But they are commending the president that he stuck to his guns, that right now Nigeria and Nigerians are beginning to see some kind of respite. And they believe that if it continues on this trajectory, in the next few months, Nigerians will begin to afford the EFCC because already cost of foodstuffs are already going down. The inflation that we've had has reduced from about 18.2 to about 12.5. So they emphasize that they wanted the president to continue on the same trajectory, hoping that by the end of the year, Nigeria would have taken a turn from the hardship and difficulty.
Well, Ahmadi, I want to say thank you very much for bringing us this special report, and very timely right after the NEC meeting. We'll continue to come back to you for more information about what's transpired therein. Thank you very much, Ahmadin. Moving on now. The request by former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, for Justice Rahman Oshodi of the Lagos State Special Offences Court in Ikeja to step down from trying him has been dismissed. Now, Emefiele, his legal team, had on Monday requested for the judge to recuse himself, arguing that his previous ruling suggested a likelihood of bias. The EFCC, through its prosecution team, opposed the request, insisting that the proceedings had been conducted fairly and equitably. On Wednesday, however, Justice Oshodi held that the allegations of bias raised by the defense against him were unsubstantiated, stating that there was no evidence to justify his withdrawal from the case. He went ahead to rule that the application lacked merit and subsequently dismissed it. The House of Representatives on Wednesday commenced its own public hearing on the tax reform bill, a day after the Senate concluded its own two-day sitting for the same purpose. The hearing provides stakeholders a platform to offer input on the proposed tax legislation, which is expected to reshape Nigeria's revenue generation and fiscal policies. The chairman of the House Committee on Finance, Honorable James Faleke, confirmed the lower chamber's readiness to host stakeholders from the public and private sectors, emphasizing the importance of the reforms in achieving the government's economic objectives. The bills under review include the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Fund bills, the Nigerian Revenue Services Bill, the Nigerian Tax Administration Bill, the Nigerian Tax Bill. The proposed legislation, first transmitted by President Bola Tinubu to the National Assembly on October 3, 2024, has been a subject of intense debate, with concerns raised over its potential impact on businesses, taxation policies, and economic growth. While the bill scaled second reading earlier this month, today's public hearing will allow lawmakers in the Green Chamber to gather expert opinion before further legislative action is taken.
That 15% and let 10% go to the students. Because if infrastructure development is not there, I don't know where we are taking our students to go and learn. Yes, sir. Not contradicting you, sir. By the time we have infrastructures almost everywhere, and if there is no infrastructure almost everywhere, and then you say these students should go and learn, we are now going to tax these students to pay heavily, and these poor students cannot afford to go to education. They cannot have access, sir. Sir, it could be part of the challenges, sir. Because when you go to our various schools, maybe from the primary school today, sir, I am a lecturer in one of the institutions. In a hall where you have over 500, 600 students in one hall, and you as a lecturer coming to address them even without public address system, how will they learn if the infrastructure is not provided? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Another honorable members. My name is Joshua Olumu-Iwabashi. I'm a chartered accountant and a chartered tax practitioner. I have some concerns concerning the bill, especially the Nigerian tax bill. I am proposing, I want to start by saying, as a bona fide firm, as well as being stakeholder and practitioner in finance and taxation, I wish to put forward a strong observation and seek to express our deep concern over the exclusion of Industrial Inspectorate Department, ID, of Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment on its core mandate from the proposed tax bill, Bill number HB 1759. The precise aspect of this Nigerian tax bill that we are concerned about is the capital allowance and its processes. From pages 64843 down to 64980 of the proposed bill. Relevance of Industrial Inspectorate Department with respect to certificate of acceptance. We all know the importance of capital allowance on tax operation and the usual process of getting tax capital allowance and its relevance of the Inspectorate Department in all that process. However, with the new bill, it's almost a whole new approach, with the Industrial Inspectorate Department being absolutely excluded. Let me quickly remind us all of a few of the essential statutory responsibilities of that department. 1. Verifying and investigating qualifying capital expenditure (QCE) incurred by companies. 2. Issuing the certificate of acceptance and new stroke additional investment value, which is normally mandatory in the computation of capital allowance. 3. Generating revenue for government through its activities by way of application fee and collection of the certificate of acceptance for new investments. 4. Also, the department, during the physical inspection of capital expenditure machineries and industrial infrastructure. This database is usually utilized by the Ministry for Industrial Policy Formulation. The database is also utilized by many organizations and international development partners. Our argument. As the saying goes, you can't be a judge in your own matter. FIS cannot be tax administration and cannot be verifier of genuineness of documents brought by taxpayers, especially when it concerns determination of tax liability. If someone wants to claim capital allowance using purchase invoice, I want to take that again. If someone wants to claim capital allowance using purchase invoice is not enough to genuinely establish the existence of such assets. It is when an asset is being put to use that the taxpayer is qualified to claim allowances on such qualifying assets. If there is no regulatory body checkmating that claims, taxpayers will easily manufacture invoices to claim allowances to reduce tax liabilities. Hence, the IID should be allowed and further equipped to carry out compliance and verifications. Our prayers. Sorry. Our prayers are these. 1. Part 4, Section 29 of the Bill, AB 1759, page C4843, should be made to include a subsection that precludes the subsection 3 and outlined thus. The certificate of acceptance should remain a statutory requirement for the computation of tax capital allowance. Then, the current subsection 3, 4, and 5, etc., shall subsequently be subsection 3, 4, 5, etc. See, in our submission, we have an attachment there, which we touch appendix 5. Our second prayer is section 147, subsection 2, in page C4937, line 20, should be amended to the Industrial Inspectorate Department of the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment shall, within 1 month of certifying the production day, notify the Minister, the NIPC, and the service of the production day of the company. The phrase relevant authority should be clearly stated as the Industrial Inspectorate Department of the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. For certifying the production day. In conclusion, we are not saying the lapses in IID, that is Industrial Inspectorate Department, should not be corrected. The department can be overhauled or reformed to help them perform more efficiently. But the complete omission of the Industrial Inspectorate Department from the proposed Nigerian tax bill reform could result in biased and unverified information regarding qualifying capital expenditure for granting capital allowance. Therefore, the bill should be amended to incorporate the statutory role of Industrial Inspectorate Department of the Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment to verify capital allowance. That is our submission, and we pray this honorable. Yes. Thank you very much. We are most grateful.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, based on the number of papers that were taken, and we need to reserve energy for our stakeholders, may I move that this public hearing be adjourned to tomorrow, 11 o'clock, Wednesday. I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Visuals there from the Nigerian tax reform public hearing on bills. Now we continue with the news as human rights lawyer Femi Falana has vowed to take legal action against former military President General Ibrahim Babangida over human rights violations during his regime. Speaking on national television, Falana accused Babangida of orchestrating the wrongful arrests of activists, including himself, the late Chief Gani Fahimi, and Dr. Beko Ransom Kuti. He also condemned the execution of Major General Maman Vasta over an alleged phantom coup. Falana criticized Babangida's refusal to apologize for the annulment of the June 12 election and alleged government involvement in the murder of journalist Dele Giwa. Declaring his resolve, Falana said no apology has been offered and he will sue the former military president for massive human rights violations. Now, live to discuss this, we're joined by lawyer Vincent Otapupu. Vincent, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us once again this afternoon. Now, Vincent,
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. From a legal ground, Vincent, does Femi Falana have any right to sue the former military president, General Ibrahim Babangida, over alleged human rights violations and that occurred during his tenure decades ago?
Yes, thank you for the wonderful question. The learned senior advocate, Mr. Femi Falana, has the constitutional right to enforce his right, which has been trampled upon or breached by the former military junta, IBB. And having admitted in the book launched, in the book of such violations and all those things, that has also given credence to the suit under Section 46 of the 1999 Constitution, which states a citizen of Nigeria who feels his right has been infringed.
Unfortunately, we might not be able to continue with that conversation as it seems that we are having problems with the connection. But as soon as we get Vincent back, we'll be bringing him back and also attending to the questions that I have for him. Moving on now, the Lagos chapter of the End Bad Governance movement is calling on the Nigerian police and other security agencies to rescue kidnapped Afenifere youth leader Eniola Ojajuni. The group is requesting, or rather questioning, the effectiveness of various identity registration programs such as BVN and national ID cards in aiding security agencies. They expressed concerns that the kidnappers may kill Ojajuni given the deadline for the ransom has passed. This incident is part of a broader trend of rising crime rates in Nigeria, which the group attributes to harsh economic policies imposed by the current administration. The Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Ways and Means has accused the Central Bank of Nigeria of frustrating its investigation into the 30 trillion naira overdraft granted to the past administration. Committee Chairman Senator Jibrin Issa made the claim after receiving an interim report from consultants investigating the matter. He alleged that the CBN deliberately withheld crucial documents needed for the probe. Senator Issa linked Nigeria's food scarcity and security challenges to excessive withdrawals under former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele. However, the CBN's Director of Banking Service, Hamisu Abdullahi, insisted the bank had provided the required documents. The committee vowed to uncover how the funds were spent despite the alleged lack of cooperation. And now we're back as we have Vincent joining us again. Vincent Otapupu is a lawyer, and we were speaking about the IBB book launch and Femi Falana actually suing. Vincent, I was asking on what grounds and what right Falana has to sue, and you were in the middle of your response when the network went out. You can continue, please.
Okay, so like I've said before, Section 46 of the 1999 Constitution laconically and copiously provided for the access to court, rights granted and given to all citizens of Nigeria, including Chief Femi Falana, who have alleged that his right in 1992 was trampled upon by the unlawful, illegal, and incessant arrest and detention. You know, he was part of the people that organized a protest called Babangida Must Go protest, of which they were arrested in Lagos and brought to Abuja and was detained at the Kuje prison in Abuja here. He also alleged that he was taken to Gowada Magistrate Court and the order was made for their detention, as the case may be. And before you know it, the same military junta, IBB, postponed the transition to civil rule program, which was the anchor point upon which they were arrested. So there was no, at that point, there was no basis for the arrest, and detention becomes illegal because they have postponed the transition to civil rule program. So the rights, the fundamental human rights, which is enshrined in the Constitution from section 33 to section 43 of the Constitution, are inalienable rights. They are rights that are, so some professors and some scholars have said that those fundamental rights, the one like he has alleged, right to dignity of human person, right to personal liberty, and right to movement, are all enshrined as inalienable right of man, which is part of man and ordained by God at the Garden of Eden. Now, the Constitution prohibits you to restrict somebody's movement for unjustifiable reasons, unless the person has committed an offense known by law. That is the provisions of the Constitution. Now, when you subject the person to inhuman or degrading treatment by detention in a bad place that does not warrant, suggest, that's not good for human dignity, that is also breach of his right as contained in section 34 of the Constitution. Then the right to personal liberty, right to personal liberty is section 35, which his right has been detained because he was confined in a place. Then section 40, right to movement, as the case may be. So the give and take by accumulation of all these rights, which is also apart from the constitutional provision in 1999 Constitution, which has amended those rights justiciable, as the case may be. The African Charter on Human and People's Rights, Ratification and Enforcement Act, I think Cap 94, there about 1990, have also granted, which Nigeria is a signatory to, it has, by section 12 of the Constitution, has also granted the citizens of African the right to approach court, the domestic court, to approach even domestic court in Nigeria because of ratification, to enforce their right which they have infringed. So that book, which wherein IBB admitted to have, by way of apology or one thing or the other, is an admission. It doesn't matter that he has lasted 10 years, 5 years, as the case may be. A breach of fundamental human rights is a breach of fundamental human rights. It can happen to anybody.
Yeah, but Vincent, these admissions that Babangida gave were admissions of instances that happened inside of a military dispensation. He was a general back then. So what are the challenges that he might find that's fallen now as he's trying to bring Babangida to account?
It doesn't matter. There may not be much pecuniary interest. There won't be much what you stand to gain. But to be able to make a declaration, the court to make a declaration that his right was violated. It's a different thing that that someone arrested you, but the person never admitted arrested you. The arrest I did was illegal and unlawful. But if there's a pronouncement by a court of law that so and so thing happened so and so year, it was unlawful, it was illegal, as the case may be. Because they got that even Chief Khalifa Yemi that went to court to go and secure their release in Lagos was also arrested for going to court and was brought to the same Kuje prison in Abuja. You can imagine when your lawyer who is fighting for your release is also in the same detention with you, as the case may be. So we may not have to look, we don't have to look about what he might achieve to get at maybe 30-something years after or what have you. But let it be on record so arrest was done so year, and the court has declared the arrest illegal, unconstitutional, and also granted and also pronounced the fundamental right of Nigerian citizens not to be subjected to inhuman and degrading treatment as against the Constitution, and also for their right to personal liberty to be denied from them against the Constitution, and for their right to movement, as the case may be, to be denied from them. So it's not a question of what she stands to gain that something years thereafter.
Okay, then Vincent.
Because a lot of this went wrong during this military regime, as the case may be. A lot of rights we are trampled upon. The press we are caged. Citizens we are denied right to even to free speech. Fundamental human rights we are denied, as the case may be.
All right, then, Vincent.
These rights are not creation of any law. These rights are not creation of any man. These rights are not creation of any military junta or military administration. That's why they continue to trample upon it and try to cage people not to exercise their rights. Their rights were ordained, those rights were ordained by God, like I said, at the Garden of Eden, upon creation of man. So it is as old as life itself.
All right, then, Vincent. I want to say thank you, Vincent. Yeah, I think you've given us the crux of it, and very, very professionally as well. Vincent, I want to say thank you very much, and of course, as always, we'll continue to come to you with matters of the sort. Thank you, Vincent.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Let's go on our first break now. When we get back, more news on the other side. Welcome back. The news continues in Southern Africa, where police in Zimbabwe have arrested veteran journalist Blessed Mlanga, charging him with two counts of contravening Section 164 of the Criminal Law. I beg your pardon. That's Section 164 of the Criminal Law Codification and Reform Act for allegedly transmitting data messages inciting violence. Now, the charges relate to Mlanga granting an interview to war veteran Blessed Geza, a staunch opponent of Zimbabwe President Emerson Mnangagwa. That's 2030 agenda. War veteran and ZANU-PF Central Committee member Geza issued press briefings and interviews through HSTV anchored by Mlanga, calling for President Emerson to resign from office immediately, adding that failure to which the people of Zimbabwe will use the Constitution to assist him to step down. Mlanga will spend more nights behind bars after a Harare magistrate postponed his bail application. The judgment on the bail application is now set to be heard on Thursday. I beg your pardon.
As you all know, yesterday, that is the 24th of February 2025, on allegations of transmitting a data message for purposes of inciting violence. That, to our mind and in our consideration, is a completely unjustified charge against a journalist. This is contrary to the provisions of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which under Section 61 provides for media freedom. The bail ruling has been deferred to Thursday, the 27th of February 2025. We shall therefore come back to court day after tomorrow, and we are hoping that the outcome of these bail proceedings will.
Now, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa warned that the erosion of multilateralism threatens global growth and stability. Now, in his opening address at the G20 meeting, he emphasized the importance of rules-based order to manage geopolitical tensions and resolve conflicts. He stressed that multilateralism cooperation is vital to address challenges like slow growth, rising debt, poverty, inequality, and also climate change. South Africa, holding this year's G20 presidency, chose the theme solidarity, equality, sustainability. However, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Senator Marco Rubio criticized the agenda, accusing South Africa of promoting anti-American policies.
Vital to ensuring that the rights and interests of the vulnerable are not trampled beneath the ambitions of the powerful. Multilateral cooperation is our only hope of overcoming unprecedented challenges, including slow and uneven growth, rising debt burdens and levels, the G20 must show leadership in addressing the imbalances that persist in the global economy and filling the significant gap in funding required to achieve sustainable.
A delegation from AfriForum's Seniors and Solidarity Group have met with senior representatives of the Trump administration at the White House to what they say is to advocate for increased pressure on ANC leaders for policy changes. They say their message to the U.S. government was not to punish ordinary South Africans for differences in USA has with the Southern African government. The group says it pleaded with U.S. officials not to drop South Africa from the AGOA trade agreement, as over 500,000 jobs and the well-being of millions more depend on it. Welcome back. Now, the 88-year-old Pope Francis, who is battling pneumonia in both lungs, remains in critical but stable condition. This is according to the Vatican's report on Wednesday. The Pope was admitted to Rome's Gemelli Hospital on February 14th for breathing difficulties, sparking global concerns as his condition worsened. However, after suffering respiratory attacks and requiring blood transfusions, his condition has stabilized. Doctors remain cautious, stating the prognosis is still uncertain. However, no accurate respiratory episodes have occurred since the weekend, and his vital signs are stable. The Pope continues to work from his hospital suite, receiving the Eucharists and keeping up with church matters. Pilgrims have gathered in prayers, hoping for his recovery. Ukraine has agreed the terms of a major minerals deal with the U.S. It was reported that Washington has dropped initial demands for a right to $500 billion in potential revenue from utilizing the natural resources, but has not given firm security guarantees to war-torn Ukraine, a key Ukrainian demand. U.S. President Donald Trump said he was expecting the Ukrainian counterpart, Volodymyr Zelensky, in Washington to sign the deal this week, after the two leaders exchanged strong words about each other. Without confirming that an agreement has been reached, Trump said that in return for the deal, Ukraine would get the right to fight on. Now, for more on this, I'm joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. Please, can you tell us some more details of this deal between Ukraine and the U.S.? Apologies there, but Afia, we are unable to hear you. We're going to try and fix that. Perhaps maybe if we can try again and see if you are on now.
Good afternoon.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay, so Volodymyr Zelensky was speaking within the last hour, and he said that although a deal has been agreed, there's no security elements within that deal. And that is something that is very, very paramount for Ukraine to have in that deal. And that means, you know, that Ukraine's borders will be secure, that potentially there'll be some sort of peacekeeping force. We're not sure what those elements will be, but we do know that that hasn't been agreed yet. However, the mineral side of the deal has been agreed. So we have a little bit of detail in there. And that basically will be that the US has dropped those initial demands for, you know, a right to $500 billion of revenue in accessing Ukraine's natural resources. That's not happening, but there is going to be a deal in which deposits of critical elements and minerals like lithium, titanium, as well as coal, gas, oil, and uranium will be kind of put into what's being called an investment pot, where the US will have some access to that. It will be a jointly owned fund where 50% of Ukraine's natural resources will be contributed. Too early to talk about money, what those actual figures would be, but it's thought it's been agreed that the US and the Ukraine will have access to this investment pot.
Okay, so does this deal signal a warming up of relations between the U.S. and Ukraine?
Well, I mean, this time last week, we were talking about the fact that Donald Trump had called President Zelensky a dictator. I think the fact that sort of 7 days later, this deal has been reached, one which was rubbished by President Zelensky at first. I think it means that we are in a period of super fast moving diplomacy that literally changes from day to day, from hour to hour, It's really difficult to keep up. Could this signal a warming up in relations? Perhaps. But like I just said, things change so quickly and so frequently. President Zelensky is expected to go to Washington to meet with Trump and sign this deal. That could take place this week, possibly Friday or into next week. And there could be this, very symbolic signing in the Oval Office. I'm sure there will be other discussions had, and I'm sure Zelensky will bring up with Trump, the fact that he called him a dictator, which is false because he was elected. Now, a warming up of relations, I think so. But unless Ukraine gets those elements of security within this minerals deal, we can't see relations warming up too much.
Well, that's one relation. Let's talk about another relationship here. UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer is expected to meet with Donald Trump on Thursday. What's on the table for the two of them? Do you see hugs? Do you see fists? I don't know. But what do you think?
I mean, we saw that prolonged handshake with Macron, Emmanuel Macron and Donald Trump, didn't we? I don't think we will see fist bumps, possibly, with Keir Starmer and Donald Trump, but there will be that symbolic handshake. Look, Keir Starmer is going into this meeting with a bit of an advantage, a bit of a bump, because yesterday the UK said they were going to increase their defence spending from 2.3 to 2.5%. It's moving in the right direction for someone like Donald Trump, who's been saying that all countries should be spending 5% of their GDP on defence. And so 2.5% might not really impress him that much. And so definitely they will be talking about that. They'll definitely be talking about the war in the Ukraine as well, and tariffs. That's going to come up. Look, Donald Trump has said that he's going to impose huge tariffs on the European Union. The UK, he said that he thinks that discussion can be smoothed over. So I'm absolutely sure that will be tabled as well at this meeting with Starmer and Trump. And of course, Starmer's just going to have to learn how to handle this president. They come from opposite sides of the political divide, but he's going to have to smooth that way to make sure that this quote-unquote special relationship between the UK and the US remains special.
Well, I want to say thank you very much, Afia. Once again, we'll continue to come back to you for information of the sort. Thank you. Welcome back for sports. Now, Nigerian para-badminton star Maria Meniola Bolaji has begun training in Spain ahead of the Spanish Para-Badminton International 2025 at the Aradelde Sports Complex in Vitoria-Gasteiz. The 19-year-old recently claimed gold at the Para-Badminton International 2025 in Cairo, dominating Sweden's Hivelvi Salomonsson in the final. It marked her 58th win in 46 matches, solidifying her status as Africa's top para-badminton player. Bolaji made history in 2021 as the first African to win gold at the Spanish Para-Badminton Championship. She also earned Nigeria's first Paralympic badminton medal, a bronze, in Tokyo. Now she's determined to add another title in Spain, inspiring young Nigerians with her journey. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Able TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.